Again, this is a sort of an exploratory mission because this is only the second game of these rules that I've ever played, and it's the first one that I've done with a complete video commentary. It should be borne in should be borne in mind that right now that we're on the fourth turn of the battle, and then the 1 hour war games, the battles are 15 turns long. And the objective for the French is to get 2 units up there off the road to leave the battlefield by the road. Sorry, 3 units, or lose the battle. Well, they've already lost 2 units, so they only got 4 units left. 2 of which are artillery, which move at the same speed as infantry. They're not terribly sluggish, but it's not looking good for the French, I would say, at this point in time. However, what are the losses? This, as I said, the problem with the system I'm using right now, are not putting any kind of markers. I think I am going to have to devise some sort of. It'll probably be smoke markers with perhaps black ones being fives and white ones being ones or something like that, because I don't like no indication of the amount of damage that's done to a unit. You'd have a unit that's about to break, and using the system I'm using right now, you'd have no idea that that was the case. We've got, for example, so the actual losses then, we've got the chasseurs have lost 10, so that's in rough figures, they've lost 2/3 of their number. We've got the dragoons have lost 10 again, so that's 2/3 of their number that they've lost. And we've also got the British second infantry over here have lost 2/3 of their number. Other losses, we got 3 hits on the howitzer, not much going on there. But so we've got, yes, basically 2/3 hits to that unit, and that unit, which means that in the next turn they could definitely be destroyed. So, were that to be the case, if all of those units were destroyed, let's say in the next turn, that would mean that the British would have lost 2 and the French would have lost 3. So that would sort of tend to even things up a bit more in favor of the French. So we shall see. And in other thoughts, I've been thinking, gosh, it seems like it's awfully hard for the French to win here, but we have had some unusual things happen, and we've probably had some bad tactics by Marshal Preston on the French side. The unusual thing that happened with the draw, of course, the random draw of forces, was that both armies ended up with 2 units of artillery, which, as I said at the opening of the battle, is rather disproportionate. It's interesting idea that one might play with, that perhaps that the table that is rolled on, which is used for all periods of history, might perhaps be modified it makes it more average and less extraordinary, that there couldn't be an outcome where a 6-unit army has got 2 units of artillery. But anyway, that was just unusual. But the problem for the French has been that they've had units up the front which have been able to be fired upon by 4 units, 2 infantry and 2 artillery, which have destroyed them in fairly short order. 2 units were destroyed in 3 turns. But, of course, then one can also argue that the sort of classic Napoleonic tactics were not followed by Marshal Preston, because would it not have been better for the artillery to have led the way, so they could have set themselves up and started pounding on the British infantry, and the British infantry would not have been able to fire back because of the range involved? And then if you had also perhaps pushed forward the French cavalry to force perhaps the British infantry into square, actually that wouldn't have helped, because the British infantry couldn't shoot anyway because the artillery would have been out of range. And if the British infantry are in square, that does not, under these simple rules, make them a better target. It would under more complex rules. And of course, if the cavalry were up there menacing them like that, the cavalry would not be able to protect the the right flank of the French forces, as it's done quite effectively here. So yeah, there may be nothing wrong with this scenario. It may just be that it's been played poorly by starting off the whole thing by sending two French battalions straight up against two British stationary battalions with two enfilading batteries of artillery. Doesn't sound like a recipe for victory, does it? Really? Anyway, pressing on.